Okay, welcome back.
Hey.
Thanks for doing this, Brady.
My privilege.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's my honor. So seriously, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
Today we have the opportunity to have Brady Wilson in a car with us from Juice Inc.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I mean, a lot of people probably have an idea of what you've been up to. But maybe you could give us a little story on the shacket. I mean, just before we get into the whole thing.
Well, you need to know that your whatever date you're viewing this, the filming date is October the 31st.
Clearly, I don't just wear pirate hats for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Well, we got to make sure the culture's energized, right?
Yeah, that's right.
If the leaders aren't having fun, what does that say?
Yeah. So you see the color of this jacket. It cost me thousands of dollars and thousands of hours of running. It's a Boston Marathon jacket, and so it cost you an arm and a leg to go.
But you didn't like fake. You didn't get it at like a thrift store. Like, that's legit. Like you ran it.
Oh man, with my blood and my sweat and my tears. You know what? Interesting, Rob. I ran it in 2012. Vowed I will never run another marathon in my life.
Right.
Because I was completely engaged but not energized. And then 2013, I was watching my TV as as the first bomb went off. And one of my best friends, Stan Munston, right here in Guelph, was running Boston that day, and I knew that his finishing time would have put him right at the finish line. So I am like mad. I'm texting, "Did you get through? Did you get through?" And he goes, "I just got through," and the first bomb went off. Right, and then we started to see the carnage of victims. 22 people. 2 of them lost their lives, and the body part that was most affected for the other 20, the legs.
Crazy.
Right? So when you're a runner and you love to run, this incredible solidarity rose up within me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't explain it, but I went, I am so running Boston next year.
Straight up, eh?
Right, just like that. And so I madly scrambled to find another race where I could qualify. I was thankfully able to qualify. Went back in 2014 and I ran.
Must have been a really weird energy.
It was crazy because they didn't want to make it look like a police state. Right. So you knew that there were people seated throughout the crowd.
Right.
And they didn't make a great show of force, but it was very clear, we got this under control.
Yeah.
But we don't want you to feel like it's
under watch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a funky energy. And oh man, it was the experience of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy. Anyway,
so
that's the Boston coat, and it's like you can only wear it on Halloween because it's bright orange, or you can wear it at deer hunting.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So then, for the audience, maybe you give us a quick little heads up where you've come from, what you've been up to, what you're up to these days.
You bet. Started working in this space of energy. It's like many years ago. So pounding the energy drum, right? And leaders go, I don't get it. It's ethereal. It's too mystical. It's like
sounds fluffy.
All I care about is employee engagement.
Right.
And so that was like, early 2000s. And what's really interesting is that in the last 3 or 4 years, energy has really come into its own because it's a perfect storm. Managers, leaders, employees inundated with information, massive change they're dealing with every day, more decisions today than they've ever had to make in human history.
Crazy.
Globalization, doing more with less. And so what we're seeing is that there are so many really good people out there, like superstars, who are engaged but exhausted.
Right.
They're dedicated, but they're depleted. I had this conversation yesterday, actually, with a senior leader, and if I named the organization, everybody would know it. They said, people will bleed blood for our organization. They won't ever leave.
Yeah.
But they're having conversations like this, where the employee says, I love this organization. I will never leave, but it's killing me.
Right.
I'm so exhausted. So energy has really come to the fore. And so with a name like Juice, you know that energy is kind of important, right?
Juice it up.
For us.
Yeah.
So it's all about how can we work with organizations to build the conditions where we've got this preposterous belief that you can be fully energized throughout the day at Intrigue Media.
Right.
And have energy left over at the end of the day for your partner, for your kids, for your community. And so that
For yourself.
message for yourself, exactly.
Right.
You know, to grow and develop and enjoy life. So that message now, I meet with groups of CEOs. So on like tomorrow and the next day, I meet with a group of CEOs from large organizations, and I go out and I share the energy message. The uptake today is incredible.
Awesome.
Compared to what it was in the 2000s when this
Things started.
crazy raving lunatic is talking about energy.
Well, yeah, you're a lunatic if you're the one talking about it, but everybody else is talking about it. You're the leader.
Right. Yeah, that's it. So now I can look them in the eye and go, join the movement.
Cool.
You know, we're not the only ones in the energy movement. We're not the first ones, but we are clearly a leader in the energy movement. So I'm saying, hey, whatever you do, your engagement strategies are at risk if you're low on energy.
Yeah, and
Because
so
of the brain. Right.
And so that leads me into, you know, your TED Talk.
Right.
You know, you got the opportunity to share your TEDx talk,
Yeah.
which I thought was fantastic. And if anybody wants to check it out, what's the title?
How to fix the exhausted brain.
How to Fix the Exhausted Brain.
Mississauga TED Talk.
Yeah, and it was awesome. So I was wondering, hoping we could dig into that a little bit
I'd love to.
and try to understand a bit more around what this whole energy thing's about.
Yeah, maybe if we talk about it, I'll get it right this time.
Yeah, right. Whatever, you crushed the TEDx talk. It was awesome, seriously. I'm not sure how much coaching they do, but
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah?
Yeah, throughout the summer. I did it in July, end of July. And so they hook you up with a TED coach.
Right.
And it's like, okay, let's see your outline. Let's see what the through line is. What stories are you going to use? How are you going to start it? How are you going to end it? And then I've done a lot of speaking throughout the years. And I'm going, like, I don't know if you're going to accept me or not.
That's awesome.
There was one point at which I thought, you know what? They're probably going to choose somebody else. But anyway, thankfully, they let me talk there.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought it was fantastic, and we were talking just before we got into the car or started driving, but I actually had an opportunity to like apply some of it.
Yes.
Literally the day I watched it yesterday and today.
Which is the big payoff for me.
And it's just fascinating to see how in both instances it went really well. So I think that for me, you know, that belief wheel idea of like you have an idea of how something's going to work, you try it, it works, it just really reinforces the action. So it was great. So on that note then, can you just give us kind of like a summary breakdown of what this whole thing is about, and then we'll get into it?
Well, when people think about how do I release or generate energy with another person, often they resort to and default to, I gotta inspire them, or I've got to recognize them, or I've got to motivate them somehow. And those types of things are very much what we would call a parenting approach versus a partnering approach.
Right.
And we're trying to help leaders shift from parenting to partnering. I need to be the hand holder, the fixer, I need to be the social convener, the referee. And it's like, no, we're actually talking about adults here, and they need to own their own energy. They need to own their own engagement. It's not that you don't have a part of that. So what's really cool for me is that energy is released today, the way it's always been released, through the operating system called conversation, where you simply connect with what matters most to the other person, what matters most to you.
Yeah.
You start to see maybe possibilities emerge, and then you partner together to make a bit of progress. Well, it just so happens that doing those three things, it's like this wonderful, benevolent brain hack that goes inside the other person and inside your brain, and it releases high-performing neurotransmitters. And we all know what they are, but I don't think we've ever connected the dots. So that's what that TED Talk was about. It's like, what if you could say things and ask questions that unlock oxytocin inside another person's brain? And people go, well, who cares about oxytocin? Well, if oxytocin is flowing inside the brain, what it does is it produces a sense of trust, bonding, rapport, connection.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think I could work with you. In fact, I think I want to work with you. Well, that's a good thing. If you're in sales, or if you're a manager, or
if you're with people.
Yeah, if you're with anybody.
Yeah.
If you're a mother.
Yeah.
Right? And so the beauty of it is that you don't have to be a therapist or a super coach. You just have to be able to hold the space in an authentic way and be a human being and care about what matters to this other person. Connect on that, and oxytocin starts to flow. for both of you.
So, keep going.
Yeah, so, and then the next thing is dopamine. So when dopamine flows in the brain, what happens is we become intensely motivated. It's called the seeking drive. And so it is all about goal orientation, reward orientation, ingenuity gets released, innovation gets released. So some people, leaders of organizations go, I wish my employees were more innovative.
Right.
And everybody's got innovation on their website.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But the issue is, if you've got employees who are absolutely exhausted and depleted, you can put 8 of the most brilliant of those employees inside a boardroom and start flip charting and brainstorming, and you will get the most pedestrian level ideas in the world because dopamine's not flowing.
Right.
So the beauty of it is, if you just get skillful at asking questions that start to surface a sense of possibility. Possibility is what unlocks dopamine in your brain.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, promise of reward, opportunity, potential. And so everybody looks at that and goes, well, of course that makes sense. But what we do is we focus on the problems. We focus on where we're stuck. We focus on what's not working instead of possibility. So just making that shift, you can release more dopamine in the brain. And the last one is a really cool one, serotonin. A lot of people know about serotonin. When we feel serotonin, it is intensely pleasurable, and it provides signal strength to the other neurotransmitters in the brain. But basically, if you unlock serotonin in somebody's brain, they start to feel a sense of agency, a sense of belief and confidence. I can do this. Well, for employees who are stuck in victimitis, I can't change things aren't working for me, it's really important that they feel those things.
Big time.
So how do you do that? All you have to do is chunk down the challenge so that people feel they can make micro progress, step by step. And as soon as they start to feel a sense of progress and forward movement, serotonin starts to flow.
Very cool.
Yeah. So
oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin.
You got it.
And so just let's revisit those if you're cool with that, and just kind of break it down in terms of oxytocin. So let's call it the chemical of connection.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, you bet.
To oversimplify.
No, it's really good language.
And so in a conversation, using that framework, that operating system, what kind of things can a leader kind of think about or use in a conversation that'll help encourage the manufacturing of oxytocin?
Beautiful. So let's just say it's broader than a conversation. Let's say I'm a senior VP and I'm doing a town hall.
Great.
Some senior VPs, when they're doing town halls, number one, you at Intrigue Media would appreciate this better than anybody else, but instead of using stories, they use statistics.
Oh, very motivating.
Right?
Very motivating.
If it's a rousing,
182 clients, an average sale of $42,000. Very exciting.
Evolve that person a little bit further, and they start to tell stories. And here are the 2 stories that business leaders tell: the good to great story, or the burning platform story.
Okay.
Now, so we have these human driving needs that feel as urgent and vital to us as the very air we breathe: belonging, inclusion, acceptance. I feel part of the tribe. Security, predictability, consistency. The next one is freedom, decision-making, latitude, autonomy. Next one's significance, achievement, quality, and the next one's meaning, purpose. So when you tell the good to great story, you are appealing to that portion of your audience for whom significance, achievement, ego, status, it is the thing that energizes them.
Right.
That's what matters most. So you're probably unlocking serotonin in them because you're making a connection on what matters most to them.
Yeah.
When you tell the burning platform story, if we don't do this, you're appealing to the security.
Right.
Exactly. And so you're hitting 40% of your audience and you're leaving 60% cold.
It doesn't sound like good math.
No, it does not.
No.
So if a leader can simply look at the story that they're telling and say, okay, I have to be able to modulate the message that I want to bring and ensure that it lands for not just one group or even just two groups, but for that person for whom belonging in the tribe is really important.
Right.
That person for whom meaning and purpose and legacy. So it's easy for leaders to do that if they think about it.
Just in this a mindset and a framework of thinking about how they want to communicate.
Exactly.
And considering how the story is going to resonate with those 5 components that people connect with.
Yeah. And so when you started off saying, leaders in a conversation, it's even easier then with one person.
Well, then you don't have to have all 5.
That's exactly it. I find out what matters most. And you shared a fantastic story with me about, I don't want to blow the cover on this, but just being able to get to what mattered most for a person. And I think you ended up in a really, really good conversation.
Yeah, it was amazing. And you know what? I was about to ask you, I was like, well, then how do you get into that? And I just reflected on the conversation, and it's really simple sometimes.
Yeah.
Ask.
Yeah,
What's the most important thing to you at work?
How counterintuitive is that,
and,
right?
And we're into all sorts of stuff. We want to talk to people about life. We want to talk to people about their relationship, all that kind of stuff, which we do.
Yeah.
But we can still ask the question, what's the most important for you at work?
Well, and also it becomes even more finely pointed than that, I think, because what we know is that a person's energy needs and what it is that generates energy for them are so highly nuanced, so circumstantial, so situational. So it's what matters most in this specific situation. So we're talking about this issue with a client. We're starting up a new franchisee in Brantford, and here are the challenges we're facing. So I want to find out, in this situation, what is the most important thing for you? Because I got things that are important to me, but I really want to know what is it that's most important for you in this situation. And as we said earlier, people don't always have the answer to that on the tip of their tongue.
And that's where I was about to go. So when they don't have that answer, and I would think especially when you start to introduce that type of conversation, people won't be quite ready for it. So I think over time, as people get used to that idea,
right,
it becomes more focused, easier to get to, all that kind of stuff. Well, what are some of the things that you've done or seen or can help people with in terms of teasing out that answer if someone is, I really don't know what the most important thing is to me right now?
Well, the beauty is the cues and the clues to the answer are written all over their life. It's the car that they drive, it's the clothes that they wear, it's what they talk about at break time. I mean, if you've worked with this person for more than a month, you have a database, if you think about it,
right,
that gives you clues of, okay, if they're just like, I don't have a clue what matters most to me in this situation, you can just send out some really gentle probes. I've noticed in other situations like this, what's really gotten your attention and what really started to light you up was this.
Right.
Maybe that's not it. Is that it in this situation?
Cool.
And you might not get it. It doesn't matter if you get it. What you're doing is you are allowing them to process and say, no, it's not that. It's this. And once the this comes, then you ignite it.
That's magic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So then when it comes to dopamine, and kind of the idea with dopamine, kind of this achievement, right? Is that what dopamine is? Kind of
the sense of possibility.
Okay, right.
That's what unlocks it.
So then, that's a really cool. That's a really cool thing. So you mentioned earlier before that we're in a time where people are making more decisions than they've ever had to in the history of our society and civilization. This idea of doing more with less.
Yeah.
We're under pressures for creating a good financial outcome while making sure our team is jazzed and energized.
Yeah. And you don't even know the impact of other things like screen time and the commute.
Right.
And some of those other vectors in our life that, right, so there's
lots to it.
Yeah.
So then when, one of the things we've had a challenge with is as we grow, one time we grew where we just stretched the team and people were just like, oh my God, I'm getting killed.
Yep.
Another time we grew, we built capacity and then we had no financial return. Like profits were like, but we built capacity to fill it. But even then, when we did it, we kind of filled it a bit too quickly, and then we stretched people again, but we couldn't throw people at the problem.
Right.
So when you're in this kind of ever-tightening ebb and flow of energized staff and financial results, what kind of things can people keep in mind or practice to keep the energy flowing even through, stressful environment?
Right. The most counterintuitive thing that I talk to leaders about is tension. And the beauty that we always say the treasure's in the tension. When you think of it from a physics point of view, wherever there is tension, right inside of that tension is
energy potential.
Exactly. Potential energy.
Yeah.
And so, as a leader in a situation where do we build more capacity in this situation, even though the results and the promise is not yet there, or do we go after the promise until we've got enough business and we go, well, now we got to shore up the people? Well, that's a massive tension that every business leader is faced with. The beauty of the tension is that if we can step into the tension and hold it the right way, we can release unbelievable amounts of energy. So we experience this in our business in very, very significant ways. And so there's so much I want to say here.
Go!
One of the biggest challenges for leaders is we want to resort, when we're in a tension-filled, stress-filled situation, we resort to binary thinking. Either or,
right?
Now or never, all or nothing. You're either with me, you're against me.
Not the genius of the end.
Exactly. So that simplistic, rigid, black and white thinking, it could get you voted into the presidency. But it doesn't necessarily breed really good business results, right?
Right.
And so what we're looking for is leaders who can stand in the middle of the tension and rather than having that dualistic thinking, think integratively. So how do I hold all of this and the needs of my people, or my employees, and the promise of the business, and synthesize those two without making unsavory trade-offs and unintelligent compromises?
Right.
Because everything inside of me wants to resolve. That's the thing about tension. It always wants to resolve itself.
Yeah, that's the tension.
That's the essence of tension.
Yeah, right. Because if there was no issue to solve, there would be no tension. It would just be is.
That's right. And so here's the rubber band, right? And it either wants to resolve to the status quo, or it wants to resolve to that desired future that is roiling around inside of us.
Yeah.
So when we're in a situation where we face your situation, let's say, do we shore up our people even though the business doesn't warrant it right yet? We have to be able to sit and have the conversations with our employees and with our fellow leaders about how do we manage both. So you talked about the genius of the and. I'll give you an example from our world. One of our superstar employees came to us a few years ago and said, you know what, I've been selling like crazy, and I'm done with this selling. I want to be a designer. I want to deliver. I want like a facilitator, some trainer.
Yeah.
And I want to develop products. And we took a really hard gulp because she was literally bringing in the bulk of the sales.
Yeah.
And went, okay, our organization could sustain a really heavy blow here. But we are all about growth and the sense of possibility and the sense of promise. So
you stepped into some really tough
conversations with her, with the rest of the team. But what she was able to do was move into a role where she still supported the sales and was able to facilitate other salespeople really growing, and she began developing, designing, and delivering. And I'm telling you, today, there isn't a person on our team who would look at her role and not say, it's brilliant. Like, she is in this, right?
Yeah.
So there was a treasure in the tension. There was energy there. But in the situation, everything inside of me either wanted to go, yes, we can do everything you want and give you this position.
Yeah.
Or, no, that's not going to happen. Right? But we ended up...
There might not be a company if you take that position.
We ended up with a synthesis, at least for a certain amount of time, where she still continued to bring her muscle to the sales and started to move into this other area. And the guy who now runs our sales, JF, really took that over. So it's a fantastic story, but I'll tell you, in the moment, standing in the middle of the tension is a very tough place. It takes some emotional intelligence.
That's a whole other video.
There you go. Exactly.
So then the last piece, dopamine.
Serotonin.
Sorry, serotonin. Yeah. We just did dopamine. Serotonin. This is innovation.
So what unlocks serotonin is a sense of achievement, progress, forward movement.
Right.
And so it's like whenever you see mammals outdoing each other. So right now it's October 31st, out in the forest where we were just driving. There are two bucks slamming their antlers together, and there's a harem waiting close by, and the winner gets the harem.
Right.
Mammals love to outdo each other because it basically guarantees the survival of the species.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So whenever a mammal comes away from a situation like that, serotonin is just pumping. And so whenever we do excellent work, whenever we do quality work, whenever we're valued and respected, serotonin just starts to flow. So if we can sit with another person and help them see their way to making progress by chunking down the challenge, we can unlock serotonin in the brain.
Okay, cool. So there was a couple of pieces in there.
Okay.
Helping somebody chunk down the challenge so that they can get those little wins to unleash serotonin.
Exactly. So we try to boil the ocean all the time, right? We see
How do you eat an elephant, right?
Yeah.
One bite at a time.
Exactly. And so people are paralyzed. And one of the great things David Allen has done, so getting things done, is he basically helps people understand that when you look at an entire task, there are many sub parts of it. And if you can help somebody see the very next logical step, that's all that they need. Now, we're going to map out the entire path, but if you can help them understand how to do the very next logical step and how it links to the next one, just that in itself takes the boogeyman out of the entire...
Yeah, that's cool.
Right?
Yeah, so I want to just dig on that one for a quick second before we wrap up.
Yeah.
So I have like a pretty good skill set around being able to see that quick.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I always wanted to just, okay, boom, here it is, let's go.
Yeah.
And it would speed everything up.
Right.
But what I found is that it actually slowed everything down.
Right.
Because sometimes people didn't believe it.
Yep.
So then I realized rationally that I need to coach that type of discovery so that someone sees it on their own.
Yes.
But over the time, I've always tripped over myself because I'm like, it takes too long, man. I wish I could just, and we could move. Yep. But every single time I revert back, it always shoots me in the butt because people don't necessarily believe because they didn't come up to it on their own.
Exactly.
So I think I've done a decent job over time slowing myself down in order to speed everybody up. But I think there's a lot of leaders out there that don't necessarily understand it the way I just described it. So what can you say to them with regard to taking the time to help people see it for themselves in order to create the speed what they actually want?
Right. It's a real decision that they have to make because what they get is a rush of serotonin by solving the issue and seeing it themselves.
Right.
And so, as a leader, do I exist to get that buzz of being the solution guy, of being the guy who moves things forward? One of our biggest challenges as leaders, helping them turn the corner from I'm an individual contributor to I contribute through others. and they don't see the mathematics behind this, right? And so if a leader such as you can come to that realization of, yeah, it slows me down, but there's a multiplicative effect of that.
It speeds up the company.
You are multiplying that capability, and you're creating decision velocity throughout Intrigue Media, because you're helping cultivate that skill of taking that huge thing and saying, here's the very next thing that needs to be done. That's going to be something that they carry with them everywhere they go.
Yeah, and I'm not perfect at it by no means. I'm not trying to say that I got it dialed in, but
all
I
these
understand
people watching
it.
from IM right now are saying, "Oh
yeah, right, exactly. I got to validate. Don't worry, we're like 25 minutes deep. There's no one watching this far.
Okay.
Maybe actually that's not true. I've heard a lot of people actually watch the whole thing, but yeah, I just think it's been 5 years of hearing the message, one step back for two steps forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the concrete things that I've learned that really works. So I'm really stoked that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond engagement.
Yeah.
You want to give us a quick?
Sure, absolutely. Here it is.
Beyond engagement. Check it out.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that might be reversed because we're in reverse. I'm not sure if they can read it. It's called Beyond Engagement.
Yeah. We all want engagement, and the issue is that without energy, our engagement strategies are at risk, and they're not sustainable.
Right.
They were always meant to work together. But if you get inside the mind of a regular manager, leader, employee and say, what's engagement? They're going to say dedication, loyalty, commitment, come in early, stay late, give your discretionary effort. What they're not saying is agility, resilience, passion, enthusiasm, the sense of getting into a state of flow where you lose track of time. That's energy.
Right.
Energy serves engagement. Engagement serves energy. So it's not, let's denigrate engagement. Let's get rid of engagement. No. It's just there's something beyond engagement. And we have to have it as well, energy. And that takes me back to the early 2000s and my early rants.
That's
right?
awesome, man. And then really just like these chemicals being transmitted neurologically in our brains, being a source of energy.
Yep.
And breaking it down. It's not about a theory. This is like chemical biology.
It's like you can map it in the human brain. It's not ethereal at all. And that's the beauty of this.
That's beautiful.
For people who love science, they can look at this and go, okay, there's actually something I can do. Just have to get skillful at 3 questions, like a what matters most question, a what's possible question, and how might we partner together to make progress. Well, anybody can ask those 3 types of questions and unlock energy.
Dude. That's awesome. Thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, my honor.
Okay,
for sure.
and so where can people pick up the book?
Yeah, Amazon.com or
Beyond Engagement, Amazon.com.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks, man.
Okay,
Thanks, guys. Hey, guys, if you want to check out some more information or interviews, you can go right here. Or if you want to check out some I'm in a Cars with Rob Murray, you can go right here. So I hope you enjoy it. Leave your comments below and share away. Thanks, guys.